It is time for our week 2 college football recap, and it is time to get rolling because a lot of storylines happened over the weekend, and we're going to get to them all. And it starts with, first, this is hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters, cityheatandair.com. Hot or cold gets rolling with our week 2 recap, our biggest takeaways from week 2 of the college football season. Takeaway 1, Oklahoma really truly looks like it's the real deal and has turned a corner under Brent Venables. Either that or Michigan is falling apart under Sherrone Moore. But the truth be told is we don't know which one it is. And we don't know which one it is because Michigan was 7-5 last year. They had all the issues with the sign stealing, and they look significantly worse having had that ended. And that game was at Oklahoma. There's just a lot we don't know about the Oklahoma-Michigan series because while Oklahoma did get a quality win and seems to have turned a corner, it could also be true that Michigan is just a bad football team. But for now, Oklahoma's got to be riding high because of what happened. And so, am I hot or cold on how Oklahoma won at Michigan? Against Michigan? I'm hot. I'm hot. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm cold. I'm cold. I don't think it's going to change my opinion on Oklahoma long term. But for now, at the very least, they deserve some credit. That was a good win, and they can enjoy it for a little while. All righty. My next takeaway. Mississippi State scores a big win over Arizona State. Am I hot or cold on Mississippi State pulling off that win? I'm hot on it. Now, let me be clear on this. Arizona State's not a good football team this year. That's not the same team that made the college football playoff last year. They're not. They barely beat Northern Arizona at the start of the year. Their Cam Scatterbo is now gone. I don't know why, but with everybody back, they're just not the same team. And not being the same team and playing in Starkville, a 2-hour trip for them, that's just a lot of things that could go wrong. However, Mississippi State is doing exactly what it needs to do to build momentum in Jeff Lebby's second year to prove that it's back. And the more you build that momentum, the more the confidence develops, the better you get as time goes on because the snowball starts. And that's going to continue because guess what? They got Alcorn State at home this week. They're winning that game. Okay? And then they get Northern Illinois at home the week after. They're probably winning that game. They're going to be 4-0 with Tennessee heading to town on September the 27th. I think Mississippi State will have a lot. Tennessee's not a good road team, by the way, under Josh Heupel and under the lights in big moments. That could be an upset win for them. They could get to 5-0. It is very highly possible. So because of what this kind of reminds me of, for those who don't remember, 2022 when Tennessee beat Pitt, I wrote in the summer, in October of 2021 at my old position, I actually wrote a column that it was right after LSU fired Ed Orgeron. And we knew Florida was going to fire Dan Mullen. I wrote a column that Tennessee was uniquely positioned to go 5-0 to start 2022 and have a legendary start to the year. And I wrote the reason is because they will be facing LSU and Florida under new head coaches, and they will be facing a Pittsburgh team that lost a lot of talent, but Pittsburgh on the road would actually be their toughest test. And if they could get past Pittsburgh, they would start the year 5-0. Well, the next year they got past Pittsburgh, and then they beat Florida and LSU, manhandled LSU, and that got them to 5-0. They were a top 10 team by that point, and the momentum was enough for them to beat Alabama at home, and that's what made it a magical season with Hendon Hooker. You could see that with Mississippi State, and by the way, Jeff Lebby is a Josh Heupel disciple, so I'm hot on that. Billy Napier is done. Florida lost at home to South Florida over the weekend. Billy Napier's done. It's over. He's not going to come back from this. There's no way he can come back from this. I'm hot on that. I don't see how Florida recovers. Things were very overrated with how Florida finished last year. DJ Lagway was massively overrated. He didn't play well in any of their final 4 wins that everybody thought was the storyline behind Florida was, they finished the season so strong. They won their final 5 games and they knocked Ole Miss out of the college football playoff and they upset LSU. And now DJ Lagway's returning. They're going to be so much better. A few things were wrong with that scenario. One, DJ Lagway was overrated last year. He did not play well in those final 4 games of the regular season to win. None of his numbers were good in any of those games. He lit up the bowl game against Tulane. It's a bowl game. You have to throw those stats out the window. And it was against a group of 5 school. On top of that, they beat Ole Miss after Ole Miss expounded all of its energy beating Georgia and had a massive hangover in that game. And they beat LSU after LSU quit on the season because it lost to Alabama the week before. So Florida was already somewhat overrated. They had a lot more to prove. And losing to South Florida put Billy Napier on the hottest of hot seats. And am I hot on him being fired? Yes, it's over. Billy Napier's done. But on the other side of that, South Florida, clear-cut group of 5 favorite at this point. There's no debate. South Florida beat the group of 5 teams to make the college football playoff last year. And then they went on the road and beat the Power 4 team this year, who they beat a Power 4 team this year, who on the road the week after. They got another one this week, by the way, at Miami. If they win that one, I mean, we got to have a real conversation about South Florida. So, and Alex Golish, former Tennessee offensive coordinator, is going to get a head coaching job somewhere very soon, and it might be at Florida. So watch out. Historic rivalry thriller wins in non-conference matchups. A bunch of historic rivalries that are non-conference games took place over the weekend, and they were all thrillers in their own way. I'm talking about Baylor SMU, an old Southwest Conference rivalry. Missouri Kansas, an old Big 12 Big 8 rivalry, and Iowa State, an in-state non-conference rivalry that has been going on for a long time. Baylor, Iowa State, and Missouri all won. Thrillers. Baylor won a shootout against SMU, coming back from 14 down to win 48-45. They all of a sudden look legit, and that makes Auburn's win look better because they beat a team that made the college football playoff last year. Missouri beat Kansas in what was an epic thriller, border rivalry that used to exist. Missouri wins 42-31, and it was a lot closer, and Eli Drinkwitz should be very happy with how that played out. Iowa State beat Iowa in your typical Iowa State-Iowa fashion. They won 16-13 in a game that couldn't even cross 30 points in the total. Thrillers for all of them. You love those type of games. We need more of them in college football. What has happened to Oklahoma State? Now, this is a real story to me that, like, it's not getting enough credit. Mike Gundy went 3-9 last year, was already somewhat on the hot seat, and then decided to ruffle feathers, talk a lot of trash before last Saturday's game against Oregon, and then Oregon beat them 69-3. We're talking about Oregon, Dan Lanning. That program is really good. We knew that. That's not really a takeaway for me. The takeaway is that Oklahoma State is that bad. What is wrong with them? We need to figure that out. Mike Gundy may be done. And Tennessee tried to hire him a couple of times, by the way, for those who don't remember. So that was just hideous to watch. Texas and Alabama. Oh, 2 more. Why so many ugly games? For those who don't realize, there were a ton of ugly games over the weekends from top 5 teams. LSU beat Louisiana Tech 23-7. Georgia beat Austin Peay 28-6. South Carolina beat South Carolina State 38-10, but didn't score in the first quarter of that game. And Texas A&M failed to cover against Utah State. There were a lot of ugly games in college football over the weekend, and I don't know what that was about. I think it was probably the weather. I think the weather had the biggest part of that. Penn State barely beating Florida International, but only leading 10-0 at halftime. Was it weather? Was it something else? Clemson only beating Troy 27-16, actually trailing Troy 16-3 at halftime. Yes, Clemson trailed Troy 16-3 at halftime, believe it or not. As a matter of fact, Troy jumped out to a 16-0 lead on Clemson, and Clemson had to come back, scored the final 27 points, including 24 in the second half. But that was, again, my theory, my takeaway. I think weather, particularly in the South, was affecting things in a lot of ways and caused a lot of problems. But still, that was really shocking that there were so many other games. And my final takeaway, other teams who won against easy opponents that didn't have ugly games, don't write off Texas and Alabama just yet. Texas 38-7 beat San Jose State. I don't understand why everybody's writing off Texas and Arch Manning. It was his first start as the full-time starting quarterback for Texas. It was at Ohio State, the defending national champs, and Texas only lost by a touchdown, and he had them in position to potentially win the game at the end of the year. Don't freak out about that. And also, again, very big on this, Alabama, they just beat Louisiana Monroe 73-0. That Florida State game, look, Florida State just looks like it's back. Okay, because I know it was against a bad opponent, but over the weekend, Florida State against East Texas A&M, 77-3. So Florida State was just a tough road game for Alabama. They're a much better team than people thought. I actually think Alabama could still end up being fine. We'll see what happens. Hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com. cityheatandair.com. When we come back, I'm going to give you my Heisman race and my top 10. A quick message first from City Heating and Air.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your fair.
All right, Heisman race. Let's get rolling with it. This is going to be a hot take. My Heisman race right now is who's got the best stats in actual meaningful games. And number one across the board is Dante Moore. Dante Moore, with what he just did to Oklahoma State, I don't see how you cannot have Dante Moore leading your Heisman race after that. 16 to 21, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think Dante Moore is the star of the year so far. And doing what they did to Oklahoma State, he leads my Heisman race. Diego Pavia is now in there. That's right. Diego Pavia is in there because he lit it up against Virginia Tech. You got to give him some credit. Now, again, I'm going week to week right now, guys, because there's not a sample size of enough stats to actually go with who should be leading. So this is going to change radically each week, and there will be different players every week in this Heisman race. But Diego Pavia right now, I got him at number 2. For those who don't know, he balled out against Virginia Tech over the weekend. That really stood out. Luke Altmaier for Illinois, again, balling out at Duke. A big win for Illinois, dropping 45 points at a Power 5 school. That's huge. John Mateer at Oklahoma. He actually played really well despite only 24 points. I got to put him in there. Him and that Washington State offense that they brought in, or that offense that he and his offensive coordinator brought in from Washington State is looking to work on the Brent Venables. And then number 5, Bo Pribula for Missouri. He's actually balling out pretty well too. So Dante Moore, Diego Pavia, Luke Altmaier, John Mateer, Bo Pribula are my top 5 Heisman leaders. That's going to change on a week-to-week basis until things really settle down. Now my top 10. I'm going to say something first up front. You guys have to understand this with my top 10. I throw out any projections, anything I think about teams or anything like that when I do my top 10. Here's how I do my top 10. I separate them by tiers. Did you beat a team that made the college football playoff? Did you beat a Power 4 team? Did you beat them on the road or at home? And what are the records of those teams as of right now? That's it. That's it. That's all I'm doing right now, meaning there's teams that you would have in the top 10 that don't belong there right now. So, number 1 is South Florida. South Florida has to be number 1. They beat a team that made the playoff last year, and then they beat a group of a Power 5 team on the road. There's no way you cannot have South Florida number 1 in your rankings if you are going by body of work right now. That doesn't mean I think they're the best team, but I do think their body of work generates them being the number 1 team in the nation. Yes, they deserve to be number 1. Number 2 is Iowa State. And as a matter of fact, you could put Iowa State at number 1. They have 2 wins over Power 5 schools already this year. They beat Kansas State in Ireland away from home. And then this past weekend, they beat Iowa 16-13. The only reason they're not number 1 is Kansas State now is 1-2 after losing to Army. And they beat Iowa. They beat them on a neutral field, and Iowa at home. They haven't won a game on the road just yet the way South Florida has. But you can make a case. Iowa State's number 2. South Florida's number 1. Number 3 is Auburn. Auburn deserves to be number 3. Auburn, they have a signature road win over Baylor, who just beat a Power 5 school that made the college football playoff this past year over the weekend. So that's a more quality win, and Auburn beat them on the road. Auburn has to be number 3 right now. There's no debates on that. LSU is number 4. They have a road win over a Power 5 school. That's 1-1. Ole Miss is number 5. Road win over a Power 5 school. Georgia Tech is number 6. Road win over a Power 5 school. Nebraska is number 7. Road win over a Power 5 school. Illinois is number 8. Road win over a Power 5 school. Beat Duke this past weekend, 45-19. TCU is number 9. The only reason TCU is down to number 9 is where they have a road win over a Power 5 school. They didn't play this past weekend, so they're only 1-0 instead of 2-0 like the other ones. That by default puts them at number 9. But road win over Power 5 school. TCU is number 9. Tennessee is number 10. Some schools I left off that are notable. Ohio State. They beat a Power 5 school. It was a home win. Can't put them in the top 10 yet. Florida State beat a Power 5 school. It was a home win. Don't have another top quality one on the schedule. Can't put them in the top 10 yet. Miami, Power 5 school. Power 4 school, home win. Can't put them in the top 10 yet. And then other schools that could have had a case: Tulane, NC State, Vanderbilt, Michigan State, Stanford, Oregon, Mississippi State, Missouri, and Oklahoma. But again, you have to beat a Power 4 school away from home. Tennessee beat a Power 4 school away from home. It was a neutral site, but a win over a Power 4 school away from home was enough for me to put Tennessee on this list. Now, you might ask about South Carolina, who did beat Virginia Tech at the start of the year. Why they wouldn't be on this list if my standard holds. It was a Power 4 win away from home. That has to count for something, right? Even if it wasn't specifically on the road. Here's why I'm not doing that. Virginia Tech, and I'm saying this with Vanderbilt, even though Vanderbilt won at Virginia Tech, they're 0-2. So now we at least have a sample size of the season to say this isn't actually a good football team. They're 0-2. And with that in mind, that's why I consider Virginia Tech a lower tier win than other Power 4 wins to this point. Again, this will all change as time goes on, guys. Schedule strength will start to filter out, but I'm not doing anything on that at this point.